It's an all-time
They're
low.
really
What you
good.
know.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, should Notre Dame stay in the ACC? Does Ohio State need to blow out Northwestern?
No.
And are we about to see the revenge of Freddie Kitchens? But we begin today with tonight's Thursday night game where the Raiders host the Chargers with what feels like the Raiders' season on the line. What started out so promising when the Raiders beat the Chiefs has turned into a slog. The Raiders have lost 3 of 4. They just fired defensive coordinator Paul Guenther, John Gruden's longtime friend. Wilbon, is tonight a must-win in Gruden's second go-around with the Raiders?
Well, Tony, if by must-win we're talking about big picture, like are they going to throw John out? No, they're not. But is he going to make something of this season and get to the playoffs and sort of take that step that justifies all the money the Raiders are paying him over whatever it is, like 10 years? Then yeah, it's probably a must-win for that. Tony, you mentioned having lost 3 or 4. Tony, the one game they won, they got outplayed by the Jets, and they should have lost that game, which means they're essentially looking at being outplayed 4 consecutive games. So they need to get this turned around. If they don't get it turned around, they're just like all the others that are going home soon.
Yeah, so you look at the Raiders and you look at their offense, and their offense has improved. I've got a couple of numbers here. They've gone from number 28 to number 24 to 11 this year. You like the tight end, Waller. You like the running back, Jacobs. You like the quarterback, Carr. They're all having good years. The defense has been terrible, though. And Gruden may have fixed the offense over the 3 years there, but he hasn't fixed the defense. They're number 28 in points against. I mean, I look at this game, and I agree with you completely. It's not like John Gruden's job is on the line. But if you lose this particular game, then it sort of feels like you've plateaued and that you're just another sort of ordinary team with a sort of a fluky win. Now, I think they're going to win, and I think they have a path to the playoffs. I think if they beat Miami and then they get at Denver, then you could see real great improvement because they went from 4-12, Mike, to 7-9. They got 7 wins already.
There's been
losing this game, I think it's deflating losing this game.
Tony, I would agree with you on that. And this is a real rival they're playing tonight. It's not just, some other game. This is a team that they've had success against. It has been very triumphant in terms of the way it feels. And there's been some despair in certain losses. And, both these franchises, Tony, have mostly come up short lately. I mean, neither one of them has had the kind of run in the last few years that you say, oh, wow, I can't wait to see fill in the blank, the Raiders. I can't wait to see fill in the blank, the Chargers. I think the Raiders should and will win this game. But, Tony, we've said that about the Raiders in various games over the past 6-7 years, right? And they lose mostly.
No, I don't think they've won a playoff game since 2002. I could be wrong on that. But it's a long time for them.
Yes.
It's a very long time. But, the trajectory for Gruden, at least on offense, has been up.
Can I just add this? The Chargers, with what used to be the baby blues, they've gone out and they've got this fraudulent blue. Just for TV, like some TV executive convinced them that the way the Woogos is slightly bolder. Either put on the baby blues or go back to some junk. No, don't do this halfway. These teams are so lazy now when it comes to be committed.
I love this.
Some commitment.
I love working with Halston. I love that you do this about fashion. Good for you.
Notre Dame is less than 48 hours away from its first conference championship game of any kind. But should there be more? The Irish have delivered terrific ratings for NBC against schools like Duke, and especially Clemson, and outgoing ACC Commissioner John Swofford, get out, make room, says the arrangement has been a win-win. Tone, should Notre Dame football stay in the ACC?
Well, I love the Don Ohlmeyer quote that the answer to all your questions is money. Mm-hmm. And I assumed, Mike, until I learned differently today, I assumed that NBC was paying Notre Dame a bonanza. Then I found out it was $15 million.
Come on.
Yeah. I don't mean to laugh at $15 million, but the ACC pays all of its members $27 million for all sports. And even if you add the $7 million that Notre Dame gets from the ACC for non-football, they're making less money than Wake Forest, which is astonishing to me because they're Notre Dame. If Notre Dame doesn't do this, I'm thinking the only reason they wouldn't do it is sort of pride, like we're Notre Dame and we've never been in a conference. But Mike, if you're in a conference and you can win a conference championship, that's the easiest way into the college football playoffs.
Yeah, this story annoys me on a lot of levels. First of all, I'm laughing. I'm sorry. This is the only context in which I'm going to laugh at $15 million. Because you know how much the Big Ten teams get for turning the lights on? Try $52 million, all right? Now, I'm not a math major, and neither are you, but that's a hell of a lot more than Notre Dame's getting. So that makes me happy, actually, Tony. And the reason why this story annoys me on so many other levels is that you think if Notre Dame was in the Big Ten, where I'm happy not to have them, but where they should be geographically and in terms of mission and all that, you think an Ohio State Notre Dame Big Ten championship game wouldn't get the same numbers or better than Clemson Notre Dame? Of course they would. Notre Dame, as much as I like to act like I hate them, and I don't, it's like making fun of them. Tony, when Notre Dame shows up, they're going to get the rating. They may not get the money. Talk about, really, who negotiated that deal? But it doesn't matter who Notre Dame is with. They don't have to play in the ACC. They can be independent. They can make more money with better negotiating, and they can be in the Big Ten and make a whole hell of a lot more money because we print money in that conference.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe it had to do with geography, but, that all the schools are Southeastern, but Pitt and BC and Syracuse are in the ACC. Look, if I were Notre Dame, Mike, this is what I would do. I'd go to them, I'd go to NBC, and I would say, we're delivering better numbers than we ever have. We're giving you markets in Alabama and South Carolina that you never had. So we'll keep most of our ACC schedule, but you got to give us more money because we're the draw. That's what I would do.
But you know what? If you're the draw, then you don't need to deliver other people. What does Notre Dame care about the South? We don't get regional here. Let's have real talk. Notre Dame doesn't give a damn about the South or the Southeast. They can make the money.
Stop for a second.
What?
You're already getting the Midwest if you're Notre Dame. If you add something you haven't had before, that's more bang for the buck. Let's move to a story that I'm calling a Wilbon special.
What?
It's about Northwestern being a sacrificial lamb. Ohio State DB Shaun Wade is saying the Buckeyes not only have to beat Northwestern in the Big Ten title game on Saturday, but they have to beat Northwestern down. Wade said, quote, "We definitely have something to prove. Like I'm telling my teammates, we have to blow them out." Wilbon, does Ohio State really have to blow you out?
That's how they should feel. That's how they should feel. They're playing for something enormous. They're playing for the right to be in the national semifinal. That's how they should feel. You know how I feel about this topic always in every sport. When people say, oh, my God, they should have taken a knee. No, make them take a knee. We got a team. We got guys on scholarship. We got some guys who are going to play on Sunday. Not as many as Ohio State, all right? But there have been a couple of games. 2 years ago, Tony, that game was competitive against Ohio State in that same stadium. For 3 quarters, Ohio State pulled away in the fourth quarter. Ohio State's a better team on paper, no question. But that's why we played the games. If they feel they need to blow us out, it's up to us to go out there and say, no, you're not blowing us out. We're going to compete with you now. So I don't give a damn what Wade says or anybody else wearing
See, I think
Columbus
Ohio State only has to win by 1 point.
Northwestern
is a one-loss ranked team, a good team. You beat them by 1 point, you're then 6-0, and you're the Big Ten champs, and you're getting into the college playoff.
Are you sure?
I'm so tired of... Yes, and let me go through this, because I'm tired of you saying that football is simply a Southern sport, that the committee only wants Southern schools.
I didn't say it's a Southern sport. I'm saying the committee wants that.
They have been holding this spot for Ohio State all season long. They're going to get a Big Ten champion, and if Ohio State wins, they're going to get an undefeated Big Ten champion. 1 point is good enough, and they're in. Texas A&M is not keeping them out.
I agree with you. If Ohio State wins, they get that spot. I agree with you on that. I'm just saying, don't tell me the committee care. The committee needs Ohio State. Otherwise, they look like they've just rolled over. And they'd rather have 4 Southern teams, which is what they'd be fine with. Yeah, they'd be fine with that.
No, it's not.
I'm not defending this committee.
They want
you can defend what they did this week if you want. The committee embarrassed itself this week. So my point is,
we agreed on that.
Ohio State, if they win this game by whatever margin, I believe they will get in. Period.
Yeah,
but they should. I understand why Wade is saying what he's saying. I understand if Ohio State feels that way.
That's fine. There are 2 comparable schools that they played, and you're aware of this. This is why Ohio State is favored. They played Nebraska. They both played Nebraska, and they both played Michigan State. Ohio State beat Nebraska by 35 and Michigan State by 40, and Northwestern beat Nebraska by 8 and lost to Michigan State. That's why Ohio State's favored,
and
but I wish you luck.
And they should be.
I wish you luck. Let's take a break.
We can use it.
Coming up, the Seahawks got off to a fast start this season, but are they running into a better team in the Washington football team this weekend?
Man, Cam Newton faces Tua and the Dolphins this weekend. Which one would you rather have for this matchup? Toss-up is next. What percentage of Americans do you think could separate Washington from the other Washington? What percentage of Americans? Now.
Time for Toss-Up, where I play the role of heavily favored Ohio State, and Wilbon plays the role of comically huge underdog Northwestern. What's first?
Toss-Up, they play Sunday. Who you got, the Seahawks or the football team?
I think I've got Seattle. They're 3-1 in East Coast games so far this year, so they're not troubled by the trip. I'm anxious about the quarterback circumstance for Washington.
Yeah.
I'd feel more comfortable with Alex Smith than Dwayne Haskins. This is odd, Mike. This could be a preview of the first round of the playoffs. If Seattle stays as a wild card at number 5, they get to play the NFC East winner, which might very well be Washington. If I were Seattle, I'd rather play Washington, where home field means nothing, than have to play either the Rams or Tampa Bay. The way I look at the game is very simple. Can Washington's defense, which is now number 6 and improving all the time in terms of points scored, can they stop Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson, this surprised me. It surprised me, Mike, to find out he's been sacked 40 times.
He's been sacked a lot.
I didn't know it was that many.
Listen, the Washington football team has won 4 straight, and they've won it on the strength of their defense, right? Only one of those teams figures to be a playoff team, and that would be Pittsburgh, but that was an unbelievably impressive win as far as I'm concerned for the Washington football team. I don't care if Pittsburgh has stumbled or not. But the question is, Tony, can Russell Wilson stay upright and be the Russell Wilson we saw in the first third of the season against that defense, which in this latest third of the season is wow. I mean, they have controlled action, particularly that front 7. I'm going to take the Washington football team at home to beat
Good
Russell
for you.
Wilson.
You're such a homer. That makes me happy.
Right.
Next.
Toss-Up, they play Sunday. Who would you rather have at quarterback, Cam or Tua?
So I love this matchup, but not for the quarterbacks. I love it for the coaches. Can a pup of Belichick beat Belichick? He didn't do it the first time around. I think New England just ran. They got 217 yards rushing, and they ran Miami out of the gym. This one, to me, Mike, feels like Miami's season. If they lose this, they're going to fall behind Baltimore for the wild card in the playoffs. If they win this, they can maybe get to the playoffs. It's a real big deal. In terms of the quarterbacks, Cam Newton can't pass. It's 16 games in a row that he's played where he's either got 1 or no touchdown passes. Do I like Tua? Yeah. Do I love him? No. And Belichick beats rookie quarterbacks 21-5 all time.
Well, there you have it. We can roll right to the commercial break now, all right? Because only one thing matters, that Belichick is 21-5 against rookie quarterbacks. And that's what Tua is, making his second start. It's against Belichick more than it is against Cam Newton. I keep waiting. I keep thinking maybe I'm hoping more than, can point to any analytics. But don't you think that Cam has one great game left in him this season? And maybe this
I'd like to see it.
One where he throws for 250 yards and also rushes for 2 touchdowns. He stays upright, grass stains free on the back of his jersey. I keep waiting for one of those. But more importantly, Belichick, 21-5 against neophytes.
Right. And a couple of weeks ago, he beat Justin Herbert, who we think is good, 45-0.
0. Yeah.
Thank you, and tip
Take
your
it
waiter
away.
on the way out.
Yeah.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Duke posts a win over Notre Dame. Are the Blue Devils back on track?
And is Freddie Kitchens ready to get his revenge on the Browns? I think I remember Freddie Kitchens. He a country singer?
Dipping back into the NFL's week ahead, Steelers at Bengals is the Monday night game. What it will take for Pittsburgh to break their schneid. One thing that won't change, Juju Smith-Schuster says he'll still dance on the logo, even though it appears to fire up other teams. So, Bill, buy or sell that strategy?
I love the creativity, but I'm selling it when your receiving core has 33 drops this year, the most in the NFL, when your offense is in free fall, and when your organization has already been plagued by social media with Antonio Brown. Bad idea. Tom has got to call him in ahead and stop it.
Okay, the Antonio Brown social media, that's now well in the rearview mirror. The drops are not. Woody Page, buy or sell Juju Smith-Schuster here?
I'm selling it. You want to dance on the logo? The last two teams you played have danced on your faces. I don't think that this makes any sense whatsoever. I don't think Tomlin's going to say to him, stop doing it. He lets the players play on and off the field, but I think it's a mistake. If you want to do it at the end of the season after you win the division, do it then.
Kevin Blackstone?
It's 2020. He wants to dance and be on TikTok. Who cares what he does on a logo? I don't think other teams are getting fired up. I don't think that's why Pittsburgh has lost their last two games, is because Juju is dancing on a logo.
The teams have said they are. The team was 11-0 while he was dancing on a logo. Now they're 0-2 while he's dancing on a logo. Both apply. Jackie Mack, how do you see it?
Yeah, therefore they're 11-2 while he dances on the logo. And I do understand a little bit what KB is saying. You don't want to take it too seriously, but I've always said if you want to do this kind of thing, you got to back it up. And here's the problem. Juju's career average this year, yards reception, 8.3 yards of reception, career low, Tony. Yeah. Do it a year where you're going to the Pro Bowl. It'd be so much more fun that way.
I mean, all their numbers they're throwing so many passes at the line of scrimmage, before the line of scrimmage. That's their offense this year.
Right.
Or lack thereof. Buy or sell too. Major League Baseball. The announcement to correct what they called a long-time oversight and elevate the Negro Leagues, all their statistics and records, through 1948, praised by many, acknowledged by all how overdue, our Clinton Yates for the undefeated, this was a great read, saw it a different way. Quote, the most ridiculous piece of soft supremacy we've ever seen. This announcement says, be grateful. We now view you as whole. Newsflash, that's the problem, not the solution. Black baseball is not less than and never will be. Kevin Blackstone, how do you consider MLB elevating the Negro Leagues? How do you consider Clinton's point there?
Well, I think guys like Buck O'Neil, Bob Kendrick, who've been working for the Negro Leagues Museum forever, would be very proud this day. Obviously, Bob Kendrick is, and Buck O'Neil would be too. And a lot of people have championed the Negro Leagues over the years. So, it's a step in the right direction, and I think it was important to hear from the historian of baseball finally acknowledging what baseball really never has, that it was their racism, their segregating the leagues, which caused this whole situation for Negro League baseball in the first place. But they still have further to go. And one thing I would still urge them to do is they need to correct Cap Anson's plaque in the Hall of Fame and indicate on it that he was a major reason for a color line being drawn in this sport.
Is that right? That's a history lesson I wasn't aware of. Does any part of you, like Clinton wrote, say that baseball is being supremacist here and that they didn't acknowledge it for so long, and now and almost magnanimously saying we'll welcome you in now?
Sure. Baseball has whitewashed its history, done a marvelous job of whitewashing its 60-year history of segregation in sport and the impact that has had on American society. Remember, a segregated sport, and we elevated it to call it something as pristine as America's pastime. So it still has a lot of reckoning to do.
Jackie McMullen, how did you see it?
Well, I commend Clinton because it is a really beautifully written piece, very well done and very heartfelt. And he's right. You don't get to change this and then pat yourselves on the back and give yourselves flowers for doing something you should have done a long, long time ago. And I think that's really what Clinton most is upset by. And I'm not sure this is the end of the story either. We were talking off camera. Hank Aaron hit 9 home runs in 1954 in the Negro Leagues. They don't count because they decided in 1948, this is where we'll start all these numbers. Well, why should that be? If Hank Aaron hit 9 home runs in the Negro Leagues, they should count, because isn't that what you're saying now? So we got a long way to go before we got this all straightened out.
Yeah, this is a nice gesture, but it feels like a very empty gesture when there's only 2 black managers in baseball. There's only 1 black president of baseball operations in baseball. Baseball still is very, very, very racist. There's racism runs through it. Only 8% of the people on the opening day roster were black Americans last year. And, baseball tries to be inclusive, but I'd like to see some more black third base coaches, black utility players, people from where managers come from. That's what needs to happen in baseball, and they're not doing it. They're not elevating the people of power.
And Woody Page.
So again, it's a nice gesture, but an empty one.
I agree with all 3 other panelists. as someone who actually watched the Negro Leagues in the early 50s, why doesn't that count? What does that not mean? I saw Charlie Pride. I saw Willie Mays play. My dad took me to games, and what was funny about that is that the people of color at those games couldn't sit in the same areas as the people who were white, like me and my father. So it's a small step, but there are giant steps that remain to be taken. And if they don't continue to actually get more black Americans involved in playing the game, in being executives in the game, and managing the game, this means nothing really.
There are some wonderful stories that are now going to be told, though. And then Willie Mays added hits. Satchel Paige added 150 wins. The first professional baseball player. There was a woman in the Negro Leagues. There were multiple. There were three, but I believe maybe Peanut Johnson becomes the first woman to have played professional baseball in the major leagues now, since we're bringing in the Negro Leagues. So many great stories to tell. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3. Could Notre Dame jump from independent to ACC long-term? Andrea Adelson for ESPN Today. Seeing how it all played out for Notre Dame this year, Jackie, buy or sell?
I think they should really consider the ACC. I know they have their real cushy, financial agreement with the network that they get paid their $15 million. But I think it's a lot to ask if you're an independent. You almost have to run the table for you to even have a chance. But if you're in the ACC, you win that championship game, you win that title game, you're playing really great teams like Clemson. Why, if you're Notre Dame, you wouldn't want to do that?
Bill Plaschke.
Yeah, Jackie, but college football is no longer just about wins and losses. It's about the money. It's about the brand. They would lose that money. They would lose their brand. They got to stay independent. I think they'll sacrifice that because of their brand. They'll sacrifice a chance for a national championship in order to pocket that $15 million and be on TV everywhere.
Woody Page.
Yes, there are reasons for joining, Jackie, the ACC, but being an independent gives them more prestige, more of a tradition where they can play Southern Cal every year. They can play Army and Navy. And the other aspect is, you talked about the money, that's $15 million a year. That's more than they can get from the ACC or even the SEC. So I think it makes more sense for them to go back to being an independent and forging ahead in that direction.
Kevin Blackistone.
But I'll just throw this wrench in there. The ACC just poached the athletic director from Northwestern, Jim Phillips, to run their conference. And he has some history with Notre Dame. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of some of the talks that went on behind closed doors to get Notre Dame into that fold.
We'll have that be the last word. I do have a correction
They haven't
already.
won a national championship in 32 years.
That's true, Jackie.
Get it, man.
One correction already. I brought up Mamie Peanut Johnson, and some of the other names are Tony Stone and then some other ladies who played, 3 in total. Connie Morgan. They all played in the Negro Leagues in the 50s, which is after that 1948 cutoff that Jackie was talking about. So they actually do not count as major leaguers.
Come on,
but they
man.
still play.